do something different with the old Suburban here. This bumper's just not cool, man. Not cool.
All it takes is one job, oh yeah. All it takes is one job, and everything is gonna be okay.
Hell, this isn't the first time we've mocked this Dodge bumper up on here. Last time I narrowed the center a little bit. Well, just more pinched it. I actually just took out of the inside and kind of pinched it so it would contour the Suburban right here. And then we kind of cut these areas so it'd lay in like that. And then I did the bodywork and primed it. I never ended up making the bumper brackets. So that's what we're gonna start doing. And then I need to cut out a hole here because I want to put my hitch behind it. And then I think I'm gonna have the pin hold the license plate, like have a receiver that holds the license plate, and you can just pop that whole thing off. And we'll have our, hopefully we can get the Dodge plug to go here and go into our harness, or we adapt this to accept ours, but I imagine it's not going to work like that. Probably have to get a Dodge plug. But at any rate, for now, we need to get these bumper brackets figured. I got our hitch flipped upside down because I'm trying to get this part of the hitch to be right in here, probably about 3 inches higher than that. I'm going to try to get it right in this area here, right up against about there. What I'm thinking we can do, I'm thinking that we can kind of cut these ends here to where the bottom of it kind of sits right in there up against the frame. So we're going to kind of do a notch in here, if you know what I mean. And then we'll re-bolt it to the bottom of the frame there. And then it'll be pretty much kind of the same deal, just flipped upside down. So I don't think that should affect much. And we can even, like it was bolted here into the bumper, we might be able to even come off the bottom there and bolt that back onto the bumper, even though this Dodge bumper is actually way thinner and lighter than my original Chevy bumper. Just doesn't have the structure that mine did. Weight reduction is key, right? We're gonna reduce some weight on this rig, make it look a little smoother. We still might haul the boat to the lake, so I need to get this hitch on there. Maybe we'll cut these off and bolt them back on, and then we can figure out where this piece will tie into it and re-weld it into it. That seems semi-sensible. Alright, I've kind of figured how far I need to move this hitch up in there, and so this line right here that I have marked is going to be the top of our bracket here. So we're going to have to flatten off the top of this a little bit and weld it into the top of that. So what I think I'll do is I'll cope a mark right here, cope that out, set this down in there, and then plate it back off the top. And I think that should do it. Alright, what a pain in their arse. We got the outside parts cleaned up. Now these pieces should sit like this, and then we'll full weld that. But what I think I'd like to do is put it on the truck and make sure that we're going to get these all in the right places and whatnot, and we'll tack it on, pull it, and weld it. This actually looks better than the original bumper, just having that hitch there. But we're going to keep going here. But we got it flipped upside down, got our McBrackets in there, and got them not tight but snug. I might need to tighten them down to do our tack here. And then I'll just tack this to this. Well, I'll probably get a decent weld, and then take it back off and finish up the welding. But first, I want to get these back in place. Do a test fit of our bumper here. So I think I'm gonna cut out this front square here. Tighten up our brackets and make sure this is all gonna fit just right. Let's cut out this square here. Well, there, but it's kind of too far out. I need to move it back in a little ways, which will probably be a major pain in the ass. So we'll take this back off and see what we can do here. Worst case scenario, I can cut the bumper a little more and bring it in a little further so it's not hitting that, but I really don't want this out this far either, because the license plate's going to sit on this, and you know, that's kind of too far out for the license plate as well. It's alright if that's a little bit fucky, but I'd rather have it right on, you know. Alright, that's better. What I did was I took the brackets that I cut there and I just flipped them around, which, since it was offset a little bit, it would just take it back a little bit, and that's perfect. So I'm gonna take a little lunchy poo, get back on this. So I got them welded and painted, and this bracket bolts up here, but there's a factory bumper piece that goes in here and it has the nut in there. And the reason that's kind of important is because it makes it to where these bolts can't pull out through the holes, you know. If you did get a little bit too much tongue weight and something blah 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 blah, you know, that could pull that nut through that hole. I'm going to cut off some of the factory bracket. I pulled them out here, and this is where we're going to cut it. Then we'll have these two nuts to bolt our bumper on. I'll show you how we're using those later, and then that nut that can't pull through there. So it only has the one, not the other one in the back here, but we'll do a nice wash on the back one there, and hopefully we're okay there. There she is, bolted in final. You can see it goes through that little bracket. That gives us our nuts to bolt those two bolts on, and those are what's going to hold our bumper. And there's even one back in there in the inside of the mount here that bolts through that bracket. So it's just kind of a nice spread out piece that's going to hold that really well. That really helps with the strength and everything of this. So now I feel confident with that. I don't think we're gonna have any problems there. We're gonna do our bumper brackets. All I need is a 90 coming off of here, and then two holes here. And the 90 here is gonna need some adjustment, and the 90 here is gonna have to have the two holes for adjustment on that bracket. So it's gonna go off the inside of this, come over in 90, and go into those guys there. Got our brackets on there. And then I drilled two holes, and then I cut out the middle with the plas there. And that way we'll have some adjustment this way, and then we got adjustment the other way on the other bracket we made. So this will be our in and out, and that other one is our side to side. Alright, we're gonna give it that weld. This is for all the marbles. All them marbles. Alright, we'll let that cool for a sec. Then we'll pull it and make sure. I got one welded pretty good, but this one I couldn't get the whip in there quite as good. So we'll finish that weld out and prep the bumpers for paint. All right, well, we got them painted. It's pretty good.
one job, oh yeah. All it takes is one job and